everybody, and welcome to Find Your Creative Spark. It's a pleasure to have you guys here. I'm super delighted and excited. This is something that I've sort of been wanting to do for a long time, and there's always been in my subconscious to give back, to pay things forward, to always sort of give that helping hand, that a lot of people gave me as a growing creative, many years ago. And I'll just tell you a quick story. So, I've always wanted to be an artist, and I come from a, should I say, a family of creative people. My grandfather was a photographer. My dad, after him was an artist as well. But it was sort of something that I had always been a part of my life. But sometime around the time I was finishing secondary school, if there's anything I wanted to do, I wanted to be an artist, but I didn't care. That's what I wanted to do. And my dad went to Yaba College of Technology, and he did graphic design in 1975. So that's the school I wanted to go. I wanted to be like him. So what I would do was, when I was preparing for my SSC, I would go to the HND2 painting class and just stare from the windows, and they would chase me away. I was like, no, who's this guy? I was just like 16 or 15. But you see, I kept doing that every Saturday. So when I was going for my lessons, I would pass through Yabatek and go up there and just look through they kept pursuing me until they got tired of pursuing me. And when I got into the class, it was like I was in Wonderland, and that served as a huge catalyst and as an inspiration for, what I started to do, in my life, because, painting as a young teenager, and beginning to live that experience was a huge catalyst, and it's what inspired me to sort of pursue the arts, and it played a very key role in where I become. So I think that the place of inspiration is very key. You see, you may have all the tools and you might have all the assets. So you've gone to school to learn something, you have all the tools to learn that thing, but somehow you find yourself stuck in this level that you can't get past, and you're asking yourself, why is it that I cannot get past where I am? Why is it that this other person is doing it better? Why is it that, anytime I try to do things in a certain way, it doesn't seem to work? And I have everything. Sometimes inspiration can be the missing link, can be the missing key, can be that thing that just, from one level to the other. And this is pretty much what has inspired putting this together for everybody to benefit from. So, and I know that one of the things that a lot of people do is writing. It's commonplace, because essentially any sort of content creation in whatever form, even if it's an event, everything starts from writing, how it is written, how it is constructed, how it is put together. So I felt that it was very, very critical to have a class for creative writing. And I have a friend who's great. The first time we've known each other, she's been an absolute mentor, to be honest. She was the screenwriter, the screenplay for Living in Bondage. I'm sure a lot of us have seen that remake, and also the recent blockbuster that just aired a couple of months ago, Rats Snake. So I just want to introduce Nicole Asinugo. Awesome person. I'm just going to move on to her international to stage and makes it happen. So over to you, Nicole.
Thank you, Obinna, and welcome to everyone who's just joined. You're late, but it's okay. We'll not hold it against you. So today, just like Obinna said, first of all, before we start, can we do some housekeeping? So can everybody please mute unless you're speaking or asking a question when it's time for Q&A, just so, because there's some feedback noise that I can hear. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so like Obinna said, there's so many people that love creativity, but the issue is really how to express yourself and how to get it on the page, how to finish, how to execute. I think a lot of people have the desire to create, but don't necessarily have the knowledge or the tools to do so. So you kind of like look at people and kind of wonder, you know, how do they do this, or how can I do this? So I think the purpose today for this session is really to, you know, speak about creativity from a perspective that is not too high, you know, from a perspective that is relatable to everyone. So for me, I'll introduce myself. So yes, you might know me because I am the writer of Living in Bondage, Breaking Free and Rattlesnake. But I've really been a writer for forever, really. But I was not someone who ever finished anything. So when I was younger, I used to write all the time. I loved reading. I would write little short stories, and, you know, I would definitely like, you know, just write little stories, share it with my family, share it with my friends. But I never finished. I never knew how to finish. I never knew what to do, right? And so I basically just decided, so I went to law school. You know how like your parents, you know, just in general, like if you talk a lot, they'll say, oh, you're going to be a lawyer. This one is going to be a lawyer because you talk a lot. Okay. If you actually study law, you realize it has nothing to do with talking a lot. But I studied law because I thought that that's kind of the only thing that kind of was interesting to me, because when I was in school, I liked literature. So instead of studying literature, which in Nigeria, a lot of parents feel like, what are you going to do? If you study literature, are you going to become a teacher? So law is probably the most things that a lot of creatives actually find themselves studying in order to have a legitimate career. So I studied law, but very early on, I realized that it wasn't for me because it was way too complex. It wasn't about my opinion. It was about, you know, the judges, other judges' opinions. And it was about, you know, not like, it wasn't creative at all. And so after law school, I decided that I wanted to become a journalist, thinking that, okay, I like writing. I had done a few things for some magazines, so I'm going to become a journalist. So I actually did my NYSC at Channels Television. So I was a news writer at Channels Television. That's basically where I started. That was my leg into writing. And I remember at Channels, you know, they would take me to cover different things. So maybe Ministry of Investment and Trade were giving a talk at the Hilton. I'll go with the camera crew to cover it. And so when I come back to write the story, you go to the newsroom. When I come back to write the story, there will be, my editor will be like canceling out everything I'm writing, right? He's literally just canceling out everything I'm writing. So I'm like, and he's like, this is not the place to be creative, you know, like just tell the news. So when you're telling the news, you don't say, it was a quiet night and the president walked into the room. You just say, the president walked into the room. Like there's no space for creativity as a news writer, the way that I wanted to express myself. And so I knew early on that I didn't want to be a journalist. But then I didn't know what I wanted to be. And then I watched Mad Men. And this is where inspiration comes into play. So I watched this Mad Men TV show about, you know, advertising in the 50s. And, you know, it was just so cool. And I actually didn't realize this was 2010. And I didn't realize that people actually came up with ideas for a living, like the ads that you see on billboards, that was somebody's job. And I was like, oh my God, I can do that. This is it. This is what I'm saying about being creative. So I found out that the agency that Mad Men was based off of, so Mad Men is based off of Madison Avenue, and it's in New York, and it's based off of DDB and Ogilvy and all of the big agencies back then that were on Madison Avenue. And so I found out that DDB actually had an office in Lagos. And so I went to the office in Lagos, and I basically asked to see the creative director. And I told him, his name is Tunde Sule, and I told him, I'm very creative. I can write, you know, please hire me. And he said to me something that I carry till this day. He said, the question is not whether you are creative. The question is, can you be creative every single day? So that was like plot twist because I didn't know if I could be creative every single day because I had never tried to be creative every single day. And so luckily for me, he gave me a 2-week internship, non-paid, and said, let's see how it goes. Come in for 2 weeks and we'll see. And I ended up working there for 3.5 years. So the purpose of this story is, a lot of the times as creatives, we actually don't know where we fit, and we have to kind of try on different hats and see what fits. And a lot of creatives are more than just one thing. So you might find that you like movies and you like, the idea of being a scriptwriter, but you also like the idea of being a copywriter, and you also like the idea of one day writing a novel. That's okay. A lot of times they say, oh, jack of all trades, master of none. I think you can be a jack of all trades and a master of all trades if you put in the work to do that. So I think you should allow yourself to wear multiple hats as a creative. So enough about me. Let's talk about creativity as a whole. So the first thing I want to say, when I saw the name of this session, Finding Your Creative Spark, I like the name, no disrespect to the name, but I also think that, there's this concept that you have to find your creativity. There's this concept that you have to find it, as opposed to like, you already have it, So somebody once said to me, the writer, her name is Chibundu Onuzo. I asked her about writer's block. I said, how do you, because she's written novel after novel. So I'm like, how do you finish? I have a lot of writer's block when I'm writing. And she's like, she doesn't believe in writer's block. She says that, God, her creativity comes from God, and God is infinitely abundant. He created the world. He created the universe, right? So if her creativity comes from God, how can she be blocked? If she feels like she's not inspired, she prays and she gets fresh inspiration. And she said it so matter-of-factly. She said it like, duh, like, of course I don't get blocked. I pray and then I'm fine. And I never forgot that, because sometimes we try and do this thing, this creative thing by ourselves, right? We try and do it by ourselves as if, as if we're put on this world on our own. At the end of the day, like, God gave us a gift. Even if you don't believe in God, at the end of the day, you came here from something, you came here from somewhere. There was some kind of higher power that brought you here. And so tapping into that higher power and understanding that you actually already have the creativity, I think that's the first step. So I would say lean into your creativity. You don't necessarily need to find it because you have it. So lean into your creativity and lean into the things that make you excited. Like sometimes when I'm in the cinema, right, I actually realize that like, I love watching movies. Like I love it, like in my bones, right? So like lean into the things that make your heart just sing. So if there's something that you watch, or there's something that you read, or there's somebody that you see and that person inspires you, lean into that thing and do it, try it. There's no such thing as making a mistake. That's the thing about creativity. Like you cannot make a mistake with it. The most important thing is to try. There's a saying that says, leap and the net will appear, which is just amazing. The concept that if you just jump, you don't even know that there's a net, right? You just jump and it will appear. So I think as creatives, we need to get more comfortable with leaping. We need to get more comfortable with just jumping into things. So that's the first step. So now, okay, you said, okay, lean into my creativity. The creativity is inside of me. Great, that's all wonderful. But at the end of the day, you need the tools. You need to understand, how to do things. So yes, so first of all, I would say the first most important step is for you to understand that you have the creativity inside of you. That is the first step. Then the second step, I would say, is to understand the story that you're trying to tell. trying to say. Coke has okay. Sorry, I just disappeared. I don't know if everybody disappeared. Okay, so Coca-Cola has been around for hundreds of years, right? Now, if you're looking at Coke and you're saying, okay, I want to tell a story about Coke, right? You have to go and look, first of all, what stories have been told already about Coke? First of all, what stories have been told already? What does Coca-Cola want right now from this brief, right? What do they need? And how can I create a space that they have never played in before? And how can I create something that will be essential to Coca-Cola? So for copywriting, it's quite clear because you have a clear brief, right? You have a clear brand, you have a clear thing that you're working for. But with movies, with books, it's not as clear, right? So how do you then know that your story is going to make it? Your story is going to stand out, that producers want your story. It's the same thing. You look at what's out there. What is out there in Nollywood? What are the things that you think are wrong? You know, what are the things that you think are missing? I think it comes down to authenticity. So having authenticity as a storyteller is probably the most powerful tool that you can have. And in order to have authenticity, it's so hard because there's a lot of unlearning that you have to do in order to be an authentic storyteller. And by unlearning, I mean, we consume so much media, right? A lot of the media that we consume, probably if you look at the percentage of media, you probably consume more Western media than local media, right? So you've grown up watching, you know, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, all these shows, even cartoons that are Western, right? So sometimes it's very easy for us to fall into the trap of telling stories like Americans or telling stories like the British, right? As opposed to telling our own authentic stories. And there's a lot of that. If you watch Nollywood sometimes, the reason why sometimes some of the stories are unrelatable is because they're copying. And when people are copying, it's very clear. It just doesn't gel. So when girlfriends are, you know, four girls are having lunch and they're talking over cocktails and they're talking about guys and stuff, yeah, sure, we do have lunch like that and stuff, but we don't like go on dates as much as they do in Sex and the City. And we don't have that kind of culture where we're always out at bars. So when you see that in movies, sometimes it's inauthentic. So you know something is wrong. So I think as a storyteller, as a writer, as a creative, you have to ask yourself, you know, where do I live? What kind of story around here can make impact, as opposed to maybe telling a story that I think should be told. And I think you find your authenticity from your environment. So with Living in Bondage, you know, a lot of people really love the parts in the East, the parts where they were young and they were, if you watch Living in Bondage, there's a lot of the movie that is in the East. And I spent a lot of time in the East when I was younger. And so that part of the story really came from my own personal experiences. It came from the experiences of my father, my grandfather, and just being in the East. You know, I would say, like, I lived in the East for 2 years, but we went back every single Christmas, you know, so I had a lot of experience there. So I think that, you know, sometimes you have to tap into your own authentic experience in order to write so that people believe you. A lot of work to do. And I think that first of all, you just have to ask yourself, what story is unique to me? Then compare that story to other things that are out there and you can find a niche. It doesn't matter if somebody has told a story about, I don't know, about a farmer who has lost all his crops. That's a stupid example, but who knows? It doesn't matter, but you can tell that same story, but in a different way, as long as it is authentic to you. So that's really the first thing. And then the second thing I would say for a good story is imagination. So there's a quote that I like that says, imagination is more important than knowledge. And I just love that, you know, because everybody kind of puts knowledge above imagination as if like, you must go to school, you must do this, you must do that. But no, your imagination is yours. It's your dreams, it's your mind. So I think if you have imagination and you have authenticity, you have everything, honestly. Everything else is just an add-on. So we're gonna do like a little exercise to just, break the ice. So it's a writing exercise. So I'm gonna ask you, I hope you have your biro and your pen. So I'll be your pen and your paper. So I'm gonna ask you to write for 10 minutes. And then the first person to raise, the first few people to raise their hands can read out what they write. And don't be so focused on, oh, whether it's amazing or whether it sounds great. That's not the point of the exercise. I'll tell you the point of the exercise after the exercise. So I'm going to tell you what we're going to write about. We're going to write about flowers. Yeah. So any kind of flowers, it doesn't have to be these flowers, but you can use this as your inspiration. So just flowers in general. It can be these flowers. It can be flowers from your childhood. It could be just flowers in general. But for 10 minutes, I'm going to write as well. Let's just write about flowers. Yeah. So it's 5:21 or it's 2:21 in Lagos, in Nigeria. So yeah, literally you have like 9 minutes, and then I'll let you know when. So just pop your hand, like raise your hand in the Zoom, and we'll see who can read. Go. Time starts now. Everybody's video is off, so I can't tell if you're like rolling your eyes at me or you're actually doing it. But yeah. Okay, whose hand is up? I see Rebecca. Who else? I see Henry. I see Teju. I see Excel. Okay, one more person and then we're done. Okay, I'm OJ. Cool. Okay, that's it. Let me Obinna, can you unmute Candice or anyone first that you see? Tracy says she can't put her hand up for some reason. If you don't mind turning on your camera when you read, that would be so great.
Yeah, if you can turn on your camera and read. So Candace, you can go. Candace? Okay, so Teju, please go. Candace is not responding. So Teju, please go ahead.
Okay. So can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Sorry. Okay, so
Teju, go ahead.
yeah. Many people do something that makes them happy, something that brings out the spark in them and invigorates their energy. For me, it's flowers. Flowers is one of the priceless gifts nature has given me. Is it our colors that speaks of possibilities? Our presence alone gives me a sense of serenity. If I have my home among many, just so I can live life happily each day, that's what I'll do. So that's it.
Thank you, Candace. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Or Teju.
Yes.
Yeah, not Candace.
Yeah.
Sorry, Teju.
Yeah. Okay. Can I go now?
Yeah, Candace, you can go.
Yes.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Put the camera, please, Candace. Yeah. If you don't mind.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
My son has seen a flower in your compound and we have come to pluck it, Obinna's father said. I felt quite uncomfortable. Am I a hibiscus, a lily, or who knows, maybe a rose? My father said my bride price would be 500,000 naira because I have never known any man. How could he say that? He stopped me from seeing the love of my life, the one that makes my heart beat. Obinna's father went ahead to bargain the price, but was confronted with the idea of being a brand new flower. The bride price was eventually paid and we got married, but I was returned back home the next morning because I had been deflowered, and that's not what they paid for.
What?
Yeah,
Candace. Yeah, that's so good. You need to write more of that because it's excellent.
Thank
you need to
you.
write more.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so
Thank you.
Excel.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Okay. Let me put
See
my
your camera
video.
for us now, Excel. Thank you.
Is it upside down or right
It's
side up?
okay. We can still see you. It's okay.
That's okay.
Okay. Let me read mine now. Sandy hands dragged me to the corner of our garden. Chichi held the red tin stem to my nose in glee. I could vaguely sense the nectar, but I saw the clear liquid forming at the tip. It's sweet like sugar. Taste it, Chichi said, pushing the stem close to my mouth. I was skeptical. My mother would be mad if she knew I was eating things from the garden. Have you tried it before? I asked in suspicion. Chichi nodded vigorously. I'll lick this one if you don't take it too. I opened my mouth reluctantly and took in the liquid from the red flower. My eyes widened as the flavor spread through my. It's sweet, I exclaimed. Chichi had left me to pluck more flowers from the garden. The red flowers, she called. Pick only the red ones. That's the end.
Wow. Excel. That's amazing. I love how you used taste. Like, who would even think to use taste for flowers? That is just outstanding.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Excel. Mansu, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, pardon me. I'm actually in the bathroom.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
Okay, don't put out your camera, man. It's okay.
Yeah. All right. So this says, we are children of the garden. Like flowers, we blossom. We grow and glow. The sun filling our souls with its rays. Water filling our hearts as we open it up like flowers. We are children of the garden. Our minds are prisons, wrapped in the magnitude of colors, while the red of roses and the purples in petals, the greens of leaves and the yellow in the sunflower. We prick like thorns, yet we are as fragrant as the musk. We're beautiful the way we are, children of the garden, perfectly made, a beauty in sight as you catch a glimpse of paradise. It's the beauty in flowers, the soul of a child. Thank you.
Wow, you did all that in the bathroom? Mansu, that was amazing.
Yes,
No,
I
that was
did.
really,
Thank
really
you.
great. Wonderful.
So if you have spoken, please put your hand down so I can see who is left. Let's have Temitope. Temitope, please go ahead. Temitope, are you there? All right.
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
After listening to all these wonderful writers, I'm not sure I want to read mine anymore, but okay. Oh, tender wonders, how lovely you are, how gracious. Who curates you, glory of the field? Your creator be praised. Such grace, such beauty. That's it. Thank you.
Well
That's
done.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Temitope.
Welcome.
Tracy, can you go ahead?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi, Tracy.
Can you put on your camera?
Hi. Oh, I'm next.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I couldn't hear for a bit.
Okay. But we can hear you. Go ahead. Read your writing out. Can you put on your camera, please?
Okay, I just did. Okay. My writing. I'm not sure why people love flowers. Yes, they are pretty and they make our environment prettier, but they die. They don't live forever, especially when they've been taken out of their home and put in ours. So why do we do it? Why do we feel the need to have everything beautiful? To uproot from its place and bring to yours. What if we let things be? What would the world be if we let beauty reside where it lays and nurtured and let it bloom? What would the world be if we let people bloom? If we did not try to distort? If we let them live?
Wow. Very nice, Tracy.
Nice. Okay. Toluwalope.
Just like one or two more so that we.
Two more. So let's do Rebecca Toluwalope Temidayo. Toluwalope. Hello. Hi. Hello. We can't hear you. Toluwalope, we can't hear you. Hello. Okay, let's come back.
I think I'm ready.
Yeah, but you sound very faint.
Can you hear me?
Better, much better, much better. Please go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So here goes my little writing. Eze always loves to eat and drink healthy, but most times he gets caught in the act of consuming more than he ever imagined. One Sunday afternoon, while enjoying a meal at the local restaurant, he asked for his normal Coke or Pepsi, but was asked to try a local alternative called Zobo. It tastes like Coke or Pepsi, he exclaimed, but had something different with the taste, he wondered. Weeks after returning to the same restaurant, Eze was told there were no more Zobo at the restaurant. Where could I get another, he asked, but he was told to go make one for himself with hibiscus flower. Then he reminisced how, as a little kid, he played around with hibiscus flower growing the compound, but not knowing as at the time this could actually make the most delicious drink ever. As a grown man today, Eze cultivates hibiscus flowers and dries them for his favorite drink called Zobo. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Okay, so last person but not least, let's try Rebecca. Rebecca Oyewale.
Hi, everyone.
Rebecca.
Hi, Rebecca.
Okay, so I'm Nene. Rebecca is my friend that signed into my Zoom account. I refuse to sign
Hi,
it.
Nene.
Okay, so I've never really been a girly girl, but when my friends used to fight to pluck the few nail polish flowers that hung at the front gate of my primary school, I would join in. One after the other, we would paint each other's nails and show them off like ladies who just got their engagement rings. It's been over 20 years and I still don't understand the science behind a flower being able to gloss fingernails naturally. The name of these flowers are still a mystery, but every time I pass by my school, I always peep to see if they still grow there.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for sharing. Sorry if you didn't get to share. But I think the main thing that I wanted to, first of all, Obinna, would you like to share what you wrote?
Okay. All right. Yeah. So purples and blue remind me of a very special time in my life. It was a sight to behold each time we walked back from church. They had a way of making the sun-baked red earth look so good. Thinking about it now, it all makes me smile. Blossoming flowers of my youth. Sometimes I want to take those walks again and again.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Lovely. Very nice. Thank you guys for, should I read mine or should I leave it? I feel like I wrote rubbish for sure. Since we're all sharing, I'll read mine and then I'll tell you why we did this exercise. Okay. Our love was like a garden, lush and green, thick with the pinkest of purples and the yeses of yellow. Every part of us bloomed, the scent of us stretched far beyond the space of ourselves, and people who came close could smell the fragrance of our joy. Sunflowers and daffodils, tulips and eucalyptus, the aroma of our bond sometimes overwhelmed me, not in a bad way, but in a spiritual way, in a way that shifted my soul to fit yours. How does green turn to gray? How does a garden become a graveyard? Though loss has replaced love, I will remember us fondly. I will remember the way the air smelled fresh, like God himself extracted, like God himself exhaled on our faces. I will remember the colors of our lives. I will not remember you, but I will remember the flowers. This is how I will find my peace. So I think the point of this exercise, first of all, is to show you how quickly you can come up with something based off of something so small. I think that a lot of times we put creativity on a pedestal as if it is something that we have to reach for and we have to have this grand idea. But already from this exercise, everybody is talking about the same thing in completely different ways. We had people talk about their children. Somebody started off with my son asking questions to the flower, am I a hibiscus? And then we had Excel, who spoke about the taste and tasting a flower and that it tasted sweet. And then we had Mansu, who had this very powerful, we are children of the garden, like, you know, that was just like a statement, almost like a manifesto. And Temitokwe's take on it was, she doesn't know why people like flowers because they die, which is so true, so true. Like, why? And this idea of keeping things where they are, why do we have to affect nature? Is such a powerful thing to explore. And then, you know, the hibiscus, the zobo, you know, and the lynx. And then, you know, Obinna is just likening his childhood and the walks. And then me talking about love, you know, so I think that, you know, you just have to see that everyone has their own unique voice. Nobody is you. And that's the beauty of writing. That's the beauty of this creative journey, that nobody has your voice, nobody has your story. So I think that when you lean into your creativity and you know, somebody put a question to, you know, Obinna sent a Google form out and somebody put a question, how do I find my writing voice? And it's like, you don't find your writing voice, you have your voice. You already have it. So just use it. Use it, you already have it. So imagine if you wrote for every single day for 10 minutes, just 10 minutes. Even if you're in the bathroom, like somebody wrote in the bathroom, like you literally have 10 minutes you carve out for your writing, and you'll be shocked that 10 minutes will turn into 20, 20 will turn into an hour. And by the end of 1 year, you have a screenplay or you have a novel. I think the key to creativity and to actually turning your dreams into goals is to showing up and to be doing it every single day, to be practicing. That's really the key. There's no magic. There's no magic to it. It's just like losing weight. If you want to lose weight, you eat properly and go to the gym. That's it. Unlike losing weight, like you can get plastic surgery. Unlike that, you can't do that. There's no plastic surgery for writing. So you kind of have to do the work. So that's really the main message and the reason why we did this prompt. So take things around your space, and, you know, somebody, I can't remember who, but, you know, just a lot of people actually likened it to their childhood. Oh, the nail color, I found that so interesting, the nail paint, you know, things in your childhood that are authentic to you. You know, I've never actually seen that. I've heard of it, but I don't know the flower that does that. So imagine having that. That's such a powerful visual, even if it's a short story of, you know, these girls that go and they paint, and what can come from that might be the most beautiful thing. And that's an authentic story that a Westerner cannot have. So that's an authentic story that an American cannot have. That's yours. That's your story. So think of the things in your childhood, the things that give you joy, or things that maybe made an impression on you and maybe not give you joy. And that's why I really liked Tracy's piece about not liking flowers or not understanding people that like flowers, because sometimes your creativity can come from a place of dislike or disdain or confusion. So it's not about what you like, but it's about things that maybe have an impression on you. Okay. Now I'm going to get a little bit more practical, and then I think I'll just open it up for questions, because I can talk all I want, but, you know, at the end of the day, you guys know why you're here and you know what you want to get from this. So I really want to give you the space to ask questions and the space to have that. But just before we start question and answers, I'm going to talk about making money as a writer. So how do I make money as a writer? Okay, that is a loaded question. Like, it's loaded. Like, it's like, because, you know, unfortunately for us, we do not live in a society that necessarily encourages freelance writing. So if you lived in America, for instance, I would tell you that, you know, you write essays and you pitch these essays to journals and magazines and newspapers, and they will pay you for your writing. But unfortunately for us, a lot of the magazines that exist and the newspapers actually do not pay for writing. So my advice to you would be to find a job that allows you to write. It might not be the most creative job, but by having a job that allows you to write, it enables you develop your writing skill. So the power of writers is it cuts across industries. If I want to work in a hospital today, I can get a job in a hospital, because hospitals release journals and hospitals release findings and hospitals need writers to shape news press releases and so many different things. So I worked in a bank. I worked at GT Bank for about 3 years or 2.5 years. I've worked in an advertising agency like we spoke about. I've worked in a newsroom, and now I work for Expo 2020 Dubai, which has a lot of writing involved. I'm not necessarily only a writer, but it has a lot of writing involved. And I think what that does is it allows you, a lot of people think as a creative, you might not want to go through the 9 to 5, but I am a big believer of a 9 to 5 life, because a 9 to 5 gives you the ability to not necessarily put all of your eggs on your creativity, because you're putting too much stress on your creativity. If your creativity, you want to write a screenplay and you want the screenplay to make you money, that is the wrong way to go about writing a screenplay. You should be writing a screenplay because you want to see this movie made and you're so excited for the world to possibly see this movie, not that the movie is going to pay your bills. So find something that can pay your bills that is separate from your creativity, because your creativity should be able to flourish and not be constrained by, oh, I have to pay for this, I have to pay my rent, I have to put food on the table. So a lot of creatives think that, oh, if they don't have a creative job, therefore they won't be creative. I wrote Living in Bondage when I was working at GT Bank, and I wrote Rattlesnake while I was working at Expo here in Dubai. I've never not had a 9 to 5. I am trying to get out of 9 to 5, but that's because I've given 10 years to 9 to 5, and I don't want to be that person 30 years later that says I've been working in 9 to 5 for 30 years. But that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but I personally don't want, but I think I've given 9 to 5 my due, and I still don't think I'm at a place where I can actually leave a steady income. Because the fact of the matter is Nollywood is not at the place yet where it pays properly for scripts. So how do I make money as a writer? You make money as a writer by not relying on your creativity for money. Point blank period. That's how you make money as a writer, by not writing for money. So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing I would say is if you do have, the second thing I will say is, do you have the writing that can be marketed for money, right? So it's not just about putting a story together. Have you done the work that is required, that has put your screenplay at a level that a production house will definitely be like, yes, I need this? Because I can tell you for sure that we are like writers, we are like, I don't know, we're like pixies, we're like myths. Like good writers, they're like myths. They're looking for us. Like Nollywood needs us, right? So the thing is, how do you associate yourself or differentiate yourself from the mediocre scripts that unfortunately do exist to the better scripts, right? And how do you do that? You do that by putting in the work. There's so many books available. So I have a platform called The Writer's Room. On Instagram, it's at thewritersroom.ng. And it's still new, but we're slowly trying to build a community of like sharing like books and tools and screenplays and things that you can actually read to get better. Because I didn't go to film school. I've never gone to film school. I've never done, a formal degree in writing, but, I'm self-taught. And if you look, I have books for days. Like all I do is read all these books that tell you how to write, because they're out there, right? So it's not like we're reinventing the wheel. So I think like you as a person has to decide that I want to learn right? And I want to look for the tools. We live in, you know, some people send me DMs and they say, how do I write a screenplay? Or how can I, and I'm like, I don't know, Google it. Honestly, I'm just going to be frank with you, because everything that I know, I Googled. Because Google, if I Google, I think we need, even, I feel like somebody who does a session on how to Google things properly, it sounds silly, but honestly, like if you Google best screenwriting books, you're gonna see a list of best screenwriting books. If you Google best fiction books, you're gonna find it. But I think that a lot of times, you know, we look at people and we try and get the recipe for their success from them. But, you know, everybody's recipe is different, but there is Google that has like a blanket place where there's resources. So I definitely think there's an element of doing the work, because I think we romanticize writing a lot. We romanticize creativity a lot. So you see a photographer or you see a writer and you're like, oh, that's so cool. And you like it maybe when you get your tea and you write a little bit and you feel cool, but you don't do it again for 6 months. But you want to be a writer. Like, so it's like, ask yourself, if I really want to be a writer, am I actually doing the work? Am I actually reading books? Am I actually, people ask me, like, somebody came to my house one day and asked me, are you a teacher? And I'm like, no. I should thought I was a teacher, because I have like books and I have a whiteboard and I have highlighters and pens everywhere, because I'm always studying, because I'm trying to get better. And a lot of my work is still so flawed. Like, it's still so flawed. Honestly, if I'm going to be 100% honest with you, there is no reason why I should have, as a first-time writer, won best writer in Africa. Honestly, if I'm being honest with you, apart from God, obviously God did it, you know, but honestly, it just shows you that like a lot of people are not actually putting in the work. And there are obviously a number of reasons why things happen, but I'm never going to think like, oh, I won that award because I'm the best. No, I don't believe that. I believe that I put in the work, but I also believe that not enough people might have been putting in the work at that time, putting in the work. Like, so I feel like it should be more competitive. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're in Hollywood now, you're not going to just write your first screenplay and win an Oscar. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So I feel like a lot of us need to put in the work and do better, because there's so many flaws in Living in Bondage. There's so many flaws in Rattlesnake, but at least it was done in a way that was acceptable. So I feel like that's why I'm constantly reading, because I still don't know everything. So a lot of times when people ask me questions, I even don't know the answer, because if I knew it, I would have gone to Hollywood now. I would have left you guys behind. I've been like, bye guys, I'm off to the Oscars. But I don't know everything. So we're all learning. So just know that even the people that you look up to are work in progresses. Like, everybody is a work in progress. So always keep that in mind. Nobody has made it. Everybody is working. Everybody is trying to get better. So yeah. And then, okay, the last thing before questions, the last thing I would say is pitching. Very important. Okay, pitching. So this idea of, okay, I have a story. You know, you have a story, you know, you have maybe you have half a screenplay, maybe you have a whole full novel, right? And then I ask you, what's your novel about? And you say, okay, so one day a boy walked down the road and then he saw another man. I'm already like, no, that's not your story. I didn't say tell me. I said, what is your story about? Is it about, you know, a colossal mistake that a young boy makes in his childhood that has a ripple effect causing him to, you know, do something really bad later? Like, what is it about? Is it about a madman who, you know, finds out that, you know, there's a conspiracy against him and he's actually not mad, but everybody is just, you know, using him, like Truman Show or something? Like, what is your story? And a lot of people find it very hard to articulate what it is that they're saying. If you cannot articulate your story in one line, it could be one line, it could be a paragraph, but one breath. If you cannot articulate your story in one breath, then you do not have a good story. point blank period. It doesn't mean that your story cannot be good, but it means that you have not done enough work to make the story marketable. So I was telling Obinna yesterday that I wrote 127 log lines, which is a synopsis for a film, for the new screenplay I'm working on, right? 127, I actually counted it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because I wanted to see, because I'd been working on it for like a few days, and I had actually written 127 log lines of the same thing. And I still don't think, I think right now it's a B+. And I actually not sure how to make it an A-. And so I've actually sent it out to some people. I've sent it out to some people to say, hey, look at this, and what do you think? Immediately, somebody got back to me and said, didn't you say it was about this? And I was like, oh my God, I didn't actually mention that in the log line. So therefore it was feeling a bit flat, right? And so by mentioning that, it just gave me a level of depth. So one thing I would say is, look, if you just Google your favorite film and just Google synopsis of your favorite film, just do the Godfather synopsis or the Godfather logline, and it will say a notorious, the son of a mafia boss wants to get his revenge on da 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 da. And even just seeing that, you're like, oh, wow, that's what it's about. You don't even think of that, right? And when I even saw like Harry Potter, yeah, so I only read maybe 3 Harry Potter books when I was young. I didn't read the whole thing. But when I was I'm reading this book now that spoke about the one line, right? And the one line of Harry Potter is actually not what you think it is. The one line of Harry Potter is actually much bigger. It's like about him becoming a king, and him becoming some kind of, I don't know, I don't watch Harry Potter. I don't read it or watch it. But it's about him becoming a king so that he can unlock something in the magical power. But in order to do that, he had to go to school, hence the 7 books or the 7 series. So J.K. Rowling had a whole arc. She had a whole universe. She didn't just start one book in the dark and then say, oh, let me do number 2. Oh, let me do number 3. Or let me do number 4. No, she had it set. She had a plan that she was going to tell a story about a young guy who becomes a king. She's going to tell a story about a king. And then she's going to show how he got there, how he got his magical powers in 7 iterations. So I think people underestimate, getting that one line, understanding exactly what it is that you want to tell. So that way, if you have, are you telling me that if you have an excellent story, right? That Inkblot Productions, Kemi Adetiba, who are the big people? Film House, anybody. Are you telling me that if you have an excellent idea, they won't answer you? It's not possible. They need you. They actually need you. They need you. So I think sometimes, you need to reset your mind and think, oh, how do I get there? No, come from the position of, I have something you need. Inkblot Productions have a mandate of how many movies they need to create in a year. They actually need these films. Netflix, they need us, because if Netflix wants to come to Africa and Netflix wants to, expand their audiences, what do they need? What does Netflix need? Netflix needs good stories. Who has good stories? You do. But they need to be great. They need to be great. So I think as an industry, we're no longer taking mediocrity, like as an industry. That's why you have a movie and then the reviews are like, they've slashed it, because we're no longer taking it. Before, we were just happy to see ourselves on the screen. But now we want more. We want our movies to be on par with Hollywood. We want our movies to be on par, and they can be. They don't have, like our parents say, they don't have 2 heads. They really don't. But what they do have is they have an advantage. They do have an advantage. They have an advantage of being in a society that tells you can be anything you want to be, right? As opposed to we're from a society that say, you want to be a writer, please, you'll be broke. You know what I mean? So like, we have a lot of cultural things that we have to kind of fight against, but we're in a digital age. We're in a place where we all have, everybody that is on this call means you have internet connection. So there's no excuse anymore. There's no excuse. So hopefully you ask me the right questions. Hopefully I can answer. Hopefully you join the writer's room so that, you know, all the resources that we have, we can share with you. And yeah, I hope that you guys feel this spark. I hope you feel ginger. Maybe I should have called it ginger your creativity. Hope you feel the ginger and you're excited. But yeah, okay.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Thank you. So, guys, just before, let's just have some questions. So, if you want to ask a question, just raise your hands. Just the way we did for the exercise. Just raise your hands if you have a question, so you can ask Nicole. Okay, so I see Henry. I see Promise. Okay, let's just go full speed ahead. So, Henry, let's start with you.
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, thank you so very much for the information. And my question goes to us. I'm actually working on a feature film, a screenplay, because of budget, because I am the one producing the film myself, and I do not have so much a budget on my side. So I am trying to creatively make the film engaging, but at the same time work with minimum budget. Now, what I have decided doing is working with 3 characters for a feature film. My question is this: how do I wrap the 3 characters around themselves such that it is engaging for the next 1 hour, 20 minutes? It's not boring, and the people would love to watch it and watch it over again. So how do I play around with 3 characters for a feature film such that it is engaging? Thank you.
Thanks, Henry. Have you seen Elevator Baby?
No.
Okay, it's on Netflix. So it's a Nigerian film. I suggest that you watch it. Elevator Baby, it stars Toyin Abraham and Timini. And I think they both won Best Actor and Best Actress for their roles in that film at the last AMVCAs. And it's basically set in an elevator, right? And it's literally just the 2 of them. Maybe the whole movie has maybe 5 characters in total, but the 2 main characters are literally just stuck in an elevator for 1 hour, 30 minutes, right? And it's about their dialogue, and it's about, you know, them trying to get out of this elevator and all the things that, you know, causes them to basically speak to each other and basically try and like unpack themselves. And you get to know these characters because they're in this heightened situation that they might die, because Toyin Abraham is pregnant, she's like 9 months pregnant, so she's about to give birth. So there's also a lot of conflict. So I think it's a good case study to see how you can, it's one location, like it's brilliant, you know? So even me watching that film, I was really inspired, because I think sometimes you want to tell a story, you want things to jump, you watch Game of Thrones and you're gingered, so you want to do rockets and fly from the sky, but you really don't need all that. All you need is a good story. So your question, I think it's 2 parts. So 1, you know, how can I tell, you know, a story with 3 characters? And then 2, I have a limited budget. So I think your budget shouldn't be an issue if your story is good. So the question is, these 3 characters, what are they doing? And you can ask yourself this, answer this later. But you know, what are they doing? What is the purpose of the story? What is the message of the story? Who is the hero? Who is the opponent or the antagonist? Who are they fighting? What is their conflict? Because if there are only 3 people, there has to be a situation, right? Is somebody dying? Is somebody upset? Is somebody 2 lovers? Is one person cheating on one? Like, what is the conflict? Why would I watch 3 people for 1 hour, 30 minutes? Why do I want to watch them? So your why, you have to answer that question. Why do I want to watch them? Is it compelling enough? Is the reason why these three people are in this story compelling enough for an audience to sit and pay to watch your movie? Is it compelling enough? So ask yourself that question. And also, you know, I've been told, you know, I'm still scared to do this, but I've been told not to, and I'm trying to be less afraid. You know, I've been told that you should actually tell your ideas to people, mostly strangers. Like tell them, just if you see something, just say, hey, can I just ask you, imagine if you watched a movie that this happened. And that if you're actually talking to a stranger, the person might be like, if the person is interested, like asking you, oh, really? What? Wasn't it? What happened next? What happened next? Then you know you have a good story. But if the person is like, okay, nice, then you know your story has some work. So I'm sometimes scared to do that because, you know, I think somebody's going to steal my idea. But apparently you shouldn't be, because at the end of the day, nobody can really steal your idea, because it's like, what are the odds, you know, that somebody is now going to be like, that idea that I heard in that thing, I'm going to go and write it. It takes so long to write something and so long to produce something that the likelihood of somebody just stealing your idea because you told them is very, very slim. So I would say, try it out, talk to your friends. No, and I'm not talking about your mom and your dad who are going to tell you, yeah, sweet, here we go. Talk to like people that, you know, can tell you the truth. And, you know, tell them the story. And then maybe from talking to them, you can actually see, okay, actually, maybe I need more of a reason for these three characters. And I think from there, yeah, I think budget should, even when you work in advertising, you know, for instance, if you're writing an ad for Royco, the cube, versus if you're writing an ad for Maggie, because Maggie has more budget than Royco. So you're not going to write a Royco script that is like, oh, then the airplane, and then they, you know, dust the cube all over. Like, are you mad? Like, you write to budget, you know, so you write something that is simple, even green screen, so that you know that, you know, the client can pay. So I think you just have to apply that to what you're doing. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any more questions, guys, for Nicole? All right, promise. Let's have you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Okay, I think I have more than one question actually. Okay, for a writer that is used to writing short stories, okay, how would what advice would you give the person to use in developing longer stories, like longer, let's say maybe a novel, maybe a small novel, but what advice will you give a writer on how to expand the plot, start building the plot? And okay, secondly, how would you, what advice again would you give when we are creating the voice of our characters? Like the elevator movie example you gave, because when we are creating the unique voice of each in our story, and also for blogging, if what advice do you also give for organizing posts at write-ups the person would probably have written the post? And last but not the least, fighting the feeling of fighting imperfection, fighting, oh, okay, sorry, fighting the spirit, let me just put it out, the spirit of perfection. I mean, you want everything to be perfect. What advice would you give a writer fighting that, yes, exactly. So what advice would you give a writer that is fighting?
Yeah, I get it. That's actually my favorite. I'm so happy you asked this question. Okay, so I'll start with your first, expanding on a short story. The first thing I'll say is, if you have short stories are actually a very good way to get published. So if you actually have a collection of short stories, I would say you should actually package them and actually have a collection of short stories, first of all. Like, I think that you can have short stories and then you can expand one into a novel, but the fact that don't look at your short stories like, oh, I only have short stories. Short stories are wonderful. There are so many writers like Chimamanda, Ngozi Akwe. There's a book called What It Means to Fall from the Sky or something. It's a collection of short stories. Leslie Akwe Arma, I think that's her name. So like, there are loads of writers that come in with short story collections. So my first thing is like, don't lose that, because short stories are actually really, really, really great. Okay, and if you want to expand on a short story, I would say, okay, you have the story. It's about plotting, right? It's like plotting your outline. So they always say that a good story, you have to know the beginning, the middle, and the end, right? So how do you just literally have your beginning, middle, end, and then say, okay, what else happens between the beginning and the middle? What happens? What happens in the middle? What is the flesh? So by coloring it, so maybe in the short story, maybe you have a story about, let's say, a man and a woman and their marriage, right? So maybe you look at the man and the woman and you say, okay, I'm going to tell you about the woman before she met the man. Who was she before she met the man? So that already adds an element that wasn't in your short story that you didn't have time to explore. Who was the man before they met? How did they meet? When did they get married? Okay, now they're married. Did they get divorced? What happened in their marriage? Did she have multiple miscarriages? Was her mother-in-law mean? What happened in their marriage that is significant? And then what happened after? Did her kids grow up to hate her? Did she, did the daughter go on to marry somebody that was just like the father? So you just have to it's like an elastic band, and you just have to keep stretching and stretching and stretching until you feel like the wholeness of the story has come to life. So I hope that answers your question, but it's really about just trying to just look at different angles that you couldn't explore in a short form and actually just try and expand it. That's really the only way. And by plotting, a lot of people just write freehand. They just come into their computer and they just write. To me, I think you're a witch, because I actually don't know how you can do that. Because honestly, if I don't have my plot, like every single piece, I cannot write unless it's a short piece. But I need to know where I'm going. And you don't need to know every single thing, because as you're writing, it will come to you. But if you have an outline, then it's not so crazy. You know where you're going. You look at your board, you look at your post-it notes, you look at your notebook where you've outlined number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. So you know the points that you've checked. So it's like checking off things. You're like, okay, I've done that part, I've done that part, I've done that part, I've done that part. So take time, plot with your pen and your paper, away from your laptop, away from anything that you write with. And I think that will give you the structure that you need to write a novel or a screenplay. Okay, and then the second question was voice of characters. So I think that we should create characters like, you would a human being, right? So like, there are different types of characters. So you can have characters that there's something called archetypes. It's ARCHETYPE. So archetypes are an easy way to write a character. So an archetype is like a kind of person. So like a king or a queen is an archetype. So obviously you already know that if this person is a king, they have a palace, they have people, they have, they have power, they have money, they have influence, or a father, a mother, that's an archetype. A trickster, a joker, a con guy, that's an archetype, right? So you can have archetypes, but then that's just a device. In order to create characters, you just have to think of people. Characters are human beings, right? So human beings have, because when you're writing, it's very easy to make your characters perfect. Okay, this girl, she's an advertising girl, she's pretty, she's good at her job, all the guys like her, she's quick-witted when she speaks, and then you've just created this character, but it's like, okay, but what is she afraid of? What happened to her when she was younger that made her the way she is? Did somebody die? Was she ever sexually assaulted? Was her mother mean to her? Was her father neglectful? These are the questions you have to ask your characters to give them flaws, to give them weaknesses. And I would say the most important thing when you're creating characters is to ask yourself, what is the character's desire for the story? Not in life. Like, it's not about, when you create a character, it's not about, oh, she wants to win an Oscar. That's her desire in life, but that's not the desire in the story. In the context of the story of a mother and daughter relationship, what is her desire? Is it that her mother leads her alone and her mother gives her her independence? If that is her desire, then it's clear. So throughout the story, she's working to fight her mother or to fight for her independence. So when she meets different people, she might react a certain way because this person is holding on to her independence. So I think that is a good way to come at your characters. Somebody I spoke to, I have a podcast, which I haven't uploaded in a while, but the episodes are still on any place where you listen to podcasts, and it's really helpful. I interview writers. So there's one episode with a Sudanese writer, her name is Leila Abulela, and she told me, I asked her this question about character, so please go listen to that podcast, is very helpful. And she said that she invites her characters to a party. So she invites her characters to a party and sees how they show up. And it's crazy when you do that. All her characters, she just invites them to one party and she says, okay, they're at a party. And then she realized that one of her characters has a drinking problem. Maybe this person drinks a little bit too much, or one of her characters is insecure because when she comes to the party, she's scared to talk to people or people to talk to her. And then one of her characters is loud and dancing in the middle of the room. But those kind of fun exercises actually like tell you a little bit more about the characters and give you more, just give them more depth. So treat your characters like human beings. Nobody is one-sided. Everybody has different sides. So me as a person, you know, right now I look like I'm put together. I'm talking to you like I have sense, but the truth is, you know, like sometimes I don't have sense, you know what I mean? Like, and sometimes I do stupid things because I'm a human being, do you know what I mean? So I think like your characters should have that. So you can have them talking sense, but you should actually know that maybe they have fears, they have anxieties, they have secrets. What secrets do your characters have? That's also a good way to find out about your characters, by giving them secrets. So yeah. Okay, then blogging. I don't really know how to help you on that. Do people still blog? Do people blog still? Genuine question.
I think it's more blogging now. More people vlog than blog. So.
Yeah, people don't really blog anymore. So I don't really know. I feel like blogging is out, but I would say with anything, it's structure, right? So you just have to not take on too much, right? So you have to just know what works for you. So if you can commit to one post a week, then commit to one post a week. Don't go and start a blog and say, I'm going to post 3 times a week, but you have a job and all those kind of things. I think the most important thing from what I know about blogging is consistency. So whatever kind of content that you're putting out is consistency. You just have to be consistent with it. Don't start something and then disappear for 3 months and then wonder why you don't have any followers. You have to be consistent with anything that you're doing. So you just have to plan your schedule and show up. So know that, okay, if I can do once a week, I'll do. If I can do more, I can do more. And I think that's really the key. And so then the last point that you asked, fighting the spirit of perfection. Okay, so I'm reading this book that actually spoke about this, and it's crazy how the book actually described perfection. So you know how you think like perfection, like when you're trying to get something to be perfect, you're writing and it's not great, you're editing as you're writing and all that kind of stuff, and you want it to be great, right? This book actually says that perfection comes from egotism. Like it is your ego that is making you strive for perfection. It doesn't come from insecurity. I'm gonna say that again. It's your ego that makes you strive for perfection, not your insecurity. So your ego wants you to be at the level of Shonda Rhimes instead of allowing you to be an amateur, because that's what you are. You're learning. So you don't get to be Van Gogh overnight. He practiced and drew for years. He had things that we never saw. So I think that we have to be okay as creatives to be learners. It's okay to be a learner. It's okay to put out flawed work. It's okay to not be perfect. That is how you create. You keep going and going and going and getting better and getting better. And I don't think any work is perfect. I don't think any movie is perfect. No. I think that you can come together and make really, really great art, but you know, people look at things like one of my favorite movies of all time is Moonlight. All time. Like I can watch Moonlight over and over and over again. My best friend thinks Moonlight is trash. She's like, it is the driest movie I've ever watched in my life. And I'm like, what? How can you say that? But people like what they like. So what is perfect to one person might not be perfect to another. So I think that you need to just get over, you need to tell your ego, just check your ego at the door and be okay to put out work that is not perfect. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You got that. So we're just going to move quickly because we're heading down the express very, very quickly. So Adenka, so the last three people that will speak, Adenka, Excel, and Elvis. So Adenka, Uluwadamishola, please take it away. Adenka, please ask your question. Tepes Adenka is not there. Excel, could you please ask your question?
Okay, good afternoon. So my question is about like publishing in the Nigerian scene. So if you have a manuscript, not publishing for not for screenplay, like you want to publish a novel, what's the best way to go about it? To look for publishing house and then like send them your pitch via email, or is there another way that most like Nigerian authors go? What route they go into publishing when they have a manuscript?
So I'm not too familiar with this, but I do know of one. It's called Narrative Landscape. Narrative Landscape. It's run by a writer. His name is Egosa Imaswen. So if you check on Instagram, their page is Narrative Landscape. I'm sure they have a website, and they tell you how you can pitch to them. So it's exactly like you said, you know, you pitch, like I think they ask for a synopsis, not the whole manuscript. So you give a synopsis, and then maybe a few chapters, but you need to do your research on the different publishing houses that exist, and then do your research on how they accept work. So each publishing house has a different mechanism of how they accept work. Some of them do not accept emails. Some of them say send an email, they'll get back to you. So you have to do your research. But I would say Narrative Landscape is a good one to check out. They're the ones that print all of Chimamanda's works locally. And they also represent quite a few people. I think Oyinka Braithwaite, My Sister the Serial Killer, they published her book locally. They publish a lot of people. Egosa is a writer, a great writer, and he has that platform. So you should check him out. Narrative Landscape.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. So Elvis, you came late, but you know, it's nice to have you here. So Elvis, take it away.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi,
First of all, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. There was something I couldn't avoid, so I am so sorry. But it has been great, so thank you so much. I want to ask about pitching. I don't know if it has been talked about, but I do not work in like TV or I don't work in TV or cartoons. I'm more fashion, right? So I don't know if there's like a difference when it comes to pitching, but I think there's a similarity. Yeah. So I will just ask, is there a format you use? Because there's like so much, there's really lots on the internet, right? But I do not find them very relatable. I just think they just like really write a lot of things, but I cannot relate to them. Yeah, they just really write, but I don't know how the format works. So I want to know if there's a format for pitching. How do you
Pitching
go
what?
about pitching?
Pitching what?
Pitching, yes. So I write, like I said, so I write for fashion brands, fashion magazines, right?
Okay, okay,
So
okay.
I do not know if it's the same for TV or for
Oh, I
entertainment.
see.
Okay, so I want to know
Okay.
if I want to know what the format looks like, and I also want to know if there's a number of times you have to follow up, so the editors do not feel like you're disturbing them, right?
Right.
Because
So you're
most of
talking
the
about
times they always have
pitching, sorry to cut you, you're
pitching.
talking about pitching to fashion magazines.
Yes, so they can have your works posted on their website and then like commission you for it, right? So I want to know what number of times you have to follow up, so these editors do not feel like you are
Right.
bugging them. You know, they have like their inboxes filled with lots of emails, so you just want to.
Okay, so I have a few questions. When you say, because now the landscape, I've worked in, the magazine industry a little bit in Nigeria, and I don't know that they pay commission, they commission
No,
writers.
I'm not talking about Nigerian brands. I'm talking about Vogue magazine, WWD.
Oh, you're talking about the big boys.
Yeah, I mean, just anything.
Yeah. Okay. So I think with that, if you're competing on an international scale, right? You have to, first of all, they all have there's a format, right? So you write your pitch, it's a summary. It's a summary of what the series or what the story is that you're proposing to write for them. But it's also the content. I don't think, and I could be wrong, right? Don't take my word for it. But I don't think that in this day and age, with the amount of content creators that exist in the world, I do not think that a Vogue magazine will commission a writer from Nigeria that does not have the content to support it. So there's a different ballgame, Elvis, if you have gone with your photographer friend or partner, done a fashion series, right? Have the fashion series already photographed, and then you're pitching it to Vogue or Vogue Italia or Allure or whatever, right? As opposed to you having an idea and pitching the idea. So I think those two are very different things, because we live in a society of fast fashion, right? So the likelihood of an editor of Vogue picking up, somebody that maybe they've not worked with before and giving them a platform like that without pre-existing content, it's very, very, very slim. Obviously, things happen, it's possible, but it's very slim. So one thing that I did when I was working in the content, industry in Nigeria, I did a lot of shoots. So if you go to my website till today, my website doesn't actually reflect my current career. It's actually full of all the creative direction and all of the shoots that I did between 2013 to 2016, right? And I did a lot of free work. 90% of the stuff on my website, I didn't get paid for it. But it was picked up by all the leading magazines in Nigeria, and blogs like Bella Naija and Genevieve and This Day Style and all that kind of stuff, because they needed the content, right? And I was just creating. So I think that, we're in a place where we have to be creating, you have to have your portfolio. You're dealing with, if you're looking to pitch to Vogue, you have to have an existing portfolio of work. You have to. So I don't know if you have a strong local portfolio, but I think it's important to build your local portfolio before you even pitch to a global brand. Or you can create at a level where, you can actually pitch something that is pre-existing, because I don't think you're competing with too many people. Do you know how many Americans want to be in Vogue? And you're in Nigeria, it's just a fact. So you have to work 3 times as hard you know, and having your work be as excellent and having a portfolio that speaks for itself so that you don't have to spend too much time pitching. Imagine if you're just sending emails to Vogue and linking your portfolio so they can actually see the work, so that they can say, oh, wow, we have a shoot in Nigeria. Actually, did you see this guy's work, this Elvis guy's work? Do you know what I mean? Also, I would say another way is also, you know, looking at the Nigerian creatives on the scene right now that seem to have a good relationship with platforms like Vogue. So the first person that comes to my mind is this stylist photographer, Daniel Abassi. You know, he's done quite a lot of things with Vogue magazine of recent. So maybe your way to Vogue is not to Vogue, maybe it's through Daniel Abassi's DMs. You know what I mean? This is just an example, but sometimes you don't look for, it's not a linear approach. You look for different ways of getting what you want. So instead of going directly to Vogue, who are the Nigerians that you follow on Instagram that seem to be doing work with Vogue? Can you actually offer to just be his assistant for a shoot? Can you just offer to even, and maybe as an assistant for the shoot, you go and do an excellent write-up and send it to him and say, hey, I wrote about this shoot. If Vogue wants to carry it, sure. You know what I mean? So that way. So I have an article published by Vogue Italia, but that's because I wrote about GT Bank Fashion Weekend, right? I don't think I would have ever gotten an article published by Vogue if not writing for GT Bank. So consider that in your pitch process.
Thanks, Nicole. Chris, I hope that has been able to help, you know, allay some of your fears and probably answer a couple of questions. Chris?
Elvis, I think his name is Elvis.
I said
Elvis Chris. Okay, it's both.
Yes. I mean, I was trying to type it out. Thank you so much. I totally get it.
All right.
Thank you.
I guess something happened to you and you came back. So let's have your question, Adinka.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. My phone mic just went off. So thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. I'm a writer, I'm a creative too. So what I want to know is, can you know you have a blockbuster as a writer? Can you know you have a blockbuster? And then what are the chances that you would get your blockbuster script sold? And what ways do you get it sold? Because I write a lot of plots, and I know for myself that these things are actually top notch. But you know, to get it to the right people to sell it to, you know. So I just want to know how someone can do that. So that's all.
Right. So yeah, thank you for your question. You can most definitely know that you've written a blockbuster, 100%. Like, yes, and amazing. If you think that you've written a blockbuster, you probably have, because a lot of writers suffer from self-doubt and anxiety, and we always think everything we write is rubbish. So if you think that you have a blockbuster, you probably do have a blockbuster. So yes, you definitely can. And then how do you sell it? So I would say you do your research on the production houses that you like. So not just anybody, because it's one thing to have a blockbuster written. It's another thing to have, if you give your blockbuster to a rubbish director, it's not going to be a blockbuster. Do you know what I mean? So you also have to identify the people that you think can execute that kind of story, right? So I have an idea that I got a few weeks ago that I think is a blockbuster. Like, I got the idea and I was like, you know what, this is it. This is like the next Omogeto, right? But I know that the only person that can execute this is Funke Akindele. I would never give it to anybody else, because that's the only person that can execute that kind of idea, in my opinion, right? So it's not ready yet, it's just an idea. I'm not going to call her until I have, you know, or try and reach her, not like I have her phone number. I'm not going to try and get to her until I'm sure that there's something solid for her to work with. So I think you have to identify the kind of people that you want to work with. So for instance, Play Network Studios, it's obvious that they are into remakes. They probably will not do an original right now. You know, they might in the future, but as you look at the kind of work they're doing, they're into remakes and sequels and building universes. So you probably don't want to pitch to Play Network. Inkblot seems to be into originals. So I feel like just do your research. All the Inkblot guys are online. All the Play Network, Charles or Play, he's always online. Like all these people are online. You just need to do your research and, you know, research the producers, hunt them down, like the producer of, you know, Living in Bondage, Chris O'Day, the producer of God Calling, on Instagram, her name is Momo Spain. The director is BB Shasha, right? DM them. Like, and I know that people don't always respond to DMs because I don't always respond to DMs, but you know what I do respond to? A DM followed up by an email, because I feel like that is intentional. Do you know what I mean? Like if somebody has DM'd me and then I see an email saying, hey, you don't respond to my DM, but here's the email, I would 99.9% respond. So I think like you have to really, and when you're pitching it, you don't just send your screenplay. Like I have people that have sent me screenplays and I'm like, I'm not gonna read that. Like that's just the fact. Like you don't do that. You don't send your entire work. You send that your one line. That one line that we spoke about, the explanation of the story, and you say to them, if you would like to read more, please contact me. And then, you know, that's kind of how you get your foot in the door. And you obviously protect yourself, like you have the screenplay, you have the correspondence to show, you know, that you own the intellectual property. That's clear, you know? But I think that just identify the correct producers, the correct production houses. At the end of the day, Nollywood is a small industry, so it's quite easy to find people. It's not that hard to find the producers of your favorite films. Just wait for the credits, type in their name, and you'll probably see their Twitter or their Instagram handles. And from their Twitter or their Instagram handles, you will probably find their email addresses. So I do think DMs are fine, but if you're really serious, find their emails. Yeah, good luck.
I'm grateful. Thank you
feel
so
free
much.
to send me your one line. My email is nick.asinugo@gmail.com, nic.asinugo@gmail.com. And you know, if I resonate with the one line, and if I have an idea of, you know, oh, maybe Naz or Nuzo would like this, I'll send it to him.
Oh, thank you so much. I'll definitely do that.
But it must be a blockbuster, like you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful.
That really riveting question that has given birth to a lot of the information. So well done. So last but not least, we're hearing from John. John is a childhood friend of mine and a very good friend. So, hey, John. So go ahead.
All right, my internet has been terrible, so I've been in and out of the meeting. Hello, Nicole. It's really nice to hear.
Hi, John.
Everything. Yes. Thanks a lot. When I was selected for this meeting, I did the usual, you know, stalking online, and read up on you. So I'm sorry about that. My question is a bit personal. With what you've achieved, you know, 2 successful films, among other things, do you have to deal with imposter syndrome? Like, how do you approach your next project, knowing that it may not be on that level? How do you, is that something that bothers you, or you just, how do you work with that?
Oh, that's a good question. So I don't suffer from imposter syndrome anymore, to the glory of God. Yeah, honestly, it's God. So I had a lot of imposter syndrome for Living in Bondage, a lot, because it was my first, and it was my first encounter, well, my second, but I mean, my first encounter with, or my second encounter with criticism, right? And criticism on my writing. So I think that definitely fueled a lot of insecurities. You know, there was somebody on Twitter that said, whoever wrote the Living in Bondage screenplay should never be allowed to write again. And like, I'm not even really on Twitter, but I would find myself just like looking at tweets and what people are saying. And that kind of like played into my mind a lot. And so, you know, with Rattlesnake, I definitely felt like, oh gosh, you know, people might not like it and stuff like that. But I don't know, there was just some freedom. I read this book, or I'm reading this book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. If you can get it, I highly, highly recommend this book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And it's a 12-week creative course. And it basically just, you know, teaches you about how to navigate your creativity. And it's back to what I was saying in the beginning about understanding that your creativity comes from God. And so like we're vessels of God's creativity. So if I'm a vessel for God's creativity, like I am here so that God can create through me, then how can I feel like an imposter? Like how? Like I am meant to create. I am meant to tell these stories. I'm meant to, you know, strive for the best. So if you don't like the work that I've done, it's okay, because I didn't do it for you, right? So that's how I deal with imposter syndrome. I'm not an imposter. I'm a human being, and I'm here to create. And so I create. Yeah. That's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. It's been absolutely amazing. I mean, it's just been great. I think my happiness is just, you know, the 22 of us who have turned up today. I think 80 people signed up for this, but the 22 of you, so there must be something special about you guys. So, but first of all, let me just say thank you very much for making my birthday special. Thank you guys for showing up. And before I get to thanking Nicole, I just want to say, just add a couple of things. You know, I want us to see this as a journey. You know, creativity and all its you know, entanglements, or all its various moving parts are. There is no one quick fix, and you know, it's all a journey. And as you learn, like you learn today, you learn tomorrow, you learn from somebody else. You know, all this add up to what makes you special, or what makes you, you know, like what we've established today. The spark is in you. You know, you don't have to find it per se; it already exists. What you need to do is to harness the power of what you have, and you can, you know, like Nicole said, you know, write every day, even if it's for 10 minutes every day. You know, you have to consistently build the craft, intentionally build the craft. Well, like, you know, like that creative director asked that many years ago, can you be creative every day? So that, let that be, even if you forget everything else you've learned today, remember that, can you be creative every day? That means that you need to, you know, focus on that thing that you're doing, continuously work at it. Let me say something, you know, anytime I have any, you know, I have this sort of mentorship classes, I tell people that consistency is more important than perfection. Consistency is more important than perfection. Realize that. That's why it is possible for somebody who doesn't have the talent of the other person to be better at them, because they have consistently done something or one thing over time. You know, obviously, I mean, you probably have heard this before. You know, I think it's attributed to Bruce Lee, but don't be afraid of the man who has done, you know, 1,000 kicks, but be afraid of the man who has done one kick 1,000 times.
I love that.
You know, you don't want to be taking a kick from someone who's done one kick 1,000 times, because it's going to knock you out completely. So I think the key thing to this is just being able to, you know, focus and be intentional about writing, be intentional about, you know, about, you know, being consistent. That's the only way we're going to, you know, because at the end of the day, it's about just getting to another level. And, you know, hopefully, I hope that this session has been able to inspire you, you know, get to the next level of where you're supposed to be. Thank you, Nicole. Words cannot begin to, you know, describe how thankful, I'm grateful to you for just taking time out, because I know how busy you are, you know, to just share with everybody. And, you know, God bless you, you know, and thanks to everybody. So what's going to be happening is I'm going to institutionalize Find Your Creative Spark. So it's not going to end here. It's going to be a continuum. It's something that will be held periodically, and I'll, you know, have all your email addresses. So, you know, I email you about the next one, and, you know, continuously, so that at the end of the day, it's about empowering, creators, because at the end of the day, writing is very essential to, I mean, imagine if we substantially were able to improve the quality of writers by 20%, what that would do for our movies, what that would do for anything, writing for, copywriting for advertising, better, fashion blogs, fashion editorials, that, this all around, just being able to, empower people, inspire them, and point them in the right direction. So, once again, thank you guys for making it. It's an Easter Monday. Everybody wants to chill out before work starts again tomorrow. But you've been here. You've made my day special. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I guess this is where we're gonna, call it a day for today. While I prefer for the next session, which is on content creation. So thank you very much. This the session was recorded, so I'm going to turn this into a video and upload on YouTube and share the link with everybody so that you can relive the moments, relive all the great gems that have been shared. So have a great week. Thank you so much, and feel free to send me an email. Send Nicole an email. Her email is in the chat. Feel free to ask your questions and send her your one-liner. Your log line. Don't forget to do that. That's very important in your development. So thanks a lot, guys, and may the spark be with everybody.
Bye.
Yeah. All right, guys. Cheers.
Bye. Thank you.